as we are about to get the final 2 rounds underway in Split A. We welcome everyone to the stream. Welcome on board to the 2022 Hololive GT3 Japan Series, and we welcome you to none other than Tokachi Speedway in Sarabetsu, Hokkaido. And speaking of basically the Tokachi track here in Sarabetsu, Hokkaido, we're going to be taking a look into the track map of this 5-kilometer racetrack. Basically, the racetrack is as long as 5 kilometers in length, 5.01 to be exact. 15 corners. We have. Apologies if the left-right corner infographics is a bit wrong here, but whatever the case is, that we're gonna have to see these drivers go for 20 laps of racing for each race here. We're gonna have 4 races in total, and 2 of these will be for Split A today, and it's basically setting up the stage for the final round. Now, obviously, this is the penultimate round of the 2022 Hololive GT3 Japan Series season, so I expect the championship picture to form by this round. And it's also the 3rd longest track of the season. Remember, 3rd longest track of the season, just under Sepang, and also, of course, the longest track being the season finale here in Suzuka. And of course, we have to talk about the stream start time. We were supposed to start in the last hour, but due to delays, we'll have to start the stream 1 hour later than usual. And as it stands, we're going to be also taking a look into the championship context here. Of course, we're going to be talking about the championship leader, Shazren, after suffering 2 DNFs in the last 3 races. He's now only 99 points ahead of Undercut Astor in the number 8 Haato Honda. Sean Pauly is not far behind indeed number 56 Inugami Korone Honda. Orihara Izaya and Alex Grant especially have put themselves into a good position to become dark horses for the championship. Other dark horses involved include José Hernandez, Lorenzo Ricci, and Alex Bowen. Now, for the outside looking in, we're also talking about Andrew Takuslet and Muhammad Zohair. Now, these 2 had been flirting into the top 5, but have had a mid-season collapse, and so they're now down into the bottom portion of the top 10. Dan Powell has suffered a pretty meh middle portion of the season. Although he did score a win, he wouldn't have much of a point to gather. And also, we got Miguel Castro, Mohamed Shakir Reza, and Kate Garcia, who rounding out the 14th place. Now, we also want to note that today is Jose Marine's birthday, so congratulations to Jose Marine for her birthday, and happy birthday to her. And for Kate Garcia, she has a lot of reasons to try to push for a good performance that she's going to send in 14th. Like she can grab another win for the number 6 Jose Marine Lexus. And of course, we're going to have to also mention Daniel Bolatev out of championship contention here with 193 points, over 400 points behind the championship leader. That means he's out of the championship running. And we're going to be transitioning over into qualifying here. And as it stands, we welcome everyone here in the stream. I'm Muhammad Shazren Reza, and obviously we'd like to apologize for having a slight hiccup on the slight delay on the start of the session, the start of the stream. But whatever the case is, we got this stream underway. We welcome everyone to the qualifying session here, and here it is. The drivers are out on the track, and like we mentioned earlier, we're going to be introducing the commentary booth for today. My name is Muhammad Shazren Reza, and I will be leading the commentary for basically this session. And alongside me is none other than Callum Gibbons. So Callum Gibbons, welcome into the commentary booth. Apologies for being late.
Penultimate round of the Hololive GT3 Japan Series, and the penultimate round for Split A as well as for Split B tomorrow. And as you were saying, championship is still very wide open. Mathematically, almost everyone is in it, but you know, realistically, you can set the top 5. José Reza, Astor, Pauly, Izaya, and Grant are probably in it for this one.
Yes, it's true. We only have like 3 drivers realistically in the shot winning the championship. 14 drivers though mathematically in contention, and we also have a good amount of dark horses here as well. We also want to talk about Alex Grant and Orihara Izaya. We want to pay attention to them as well. Now we're going to be talking about one of the few drivers here. We're going to be going into some kind of shuffling between 3 drivers. Here it is, Sean Pauly, number 56 Inugami Korone Honda. Now, we've been talking about the expansion of the series with a potential Hololive GT3 International Series shortly being announced on the horizon with 5 minutes of qualifying to go. As the drivers are going to set up their cars up for their first laps. Now, obviously, the next series, the Hololive GT3 International Series, which is due to probably start in next September. Basically this September will be involving the Hololive English and Hololive Indonesia cars. Well, based on the Hololive English and Hololive Indonesia members. Now, Sean Pauly is one of the drivers who are expected to stay in the Hololive GT3 Japan series, committing to the number 56 Inugami Korone Honda. Now, obviously, Pauly is very excited, enthusiastic about the outlook of the series, and was overall excited about the prospect of the new season. And speaking of Sean Pauly, and actually, we're gonna go on board with the number 56 Inugami Korone Honda. Gibo, can you take us through a lap here in Tokachi?
As it really seems so hope off this lap is caught behind Nissan, so might be held up. So it's got a little slipstream here, but I think it's gonna be a good compromise in the corners. But nevertheless, very long main straight. You know, get up to top gear, 6th gear, over 260 kilometers an hour. Hard braking into the first corner. Still behind Nissan, so might not be very decent overlap, but nevertheless heading on towards the second corner. A lot of 90-degree corners on this track, so a lot of traction zone, trying to put the throttle on very well to keep your set grip on the track, but nevertheless and into Acon corner, another lap, another good left-hander, and then Terrace corner back onto a sort of a mini back straight. Still stuck behind this, it's what it is to get past, but onto the south top corner, the second gear right-hander, keep it nice and tucked in. I think this track's a bit bumpy as well, so a little bit of instability there, but still keeping it nice and tidy for the most part, despite circumstances. Adak bend, right left-hander now onto a proper back straight now, so nearly 1 minute into the lap now, again some slipstream still from Nissan. And another hard braking zone head towards the hairpin. First gear corner, very bumpy on entry, but it keeps it tucked in on the curve. West and then Twins corner coming up, so a couple of kinks there, another hairpin coming up here. First gear once again, sort of a double apex corner, get a nice exit there. And then was west end corner for sector 3. And now a braking zone, third gear now, saw medium-ish speed corner and head out towards a victory corner, another third or second gear corner in this case for the Honda, still keep it nice and tight, decent lap here. And now for the last corners of left and right hander, yeah, and that one's slightly compromised by the Nissan on this lap, so may want to look for more space on this next one lap, but still getting a decent enough slipstream. Let's see what it gets, 157. 8, 9, 2 minutes, 0.3, so a decent start there, despite being held behind Nissan.
And right now, as we're going to be taking a look into some of the championship contenders here, Shazren Reza qualifies a pretty decent lap over there, 2 minute 02. Astor's not far behind, he's only just about 100 ahead behind Shazren Reza, so he's in contention for challenging the championship leader. Sean Pauly, being 140 points behind, is still behind Muhammad Zohair. That's not going to do him much favors, unfortunately. Zohair is unfortunately that tad slower than Pauly, but let's see where they'll end up. And as for some of the other drivers, Kate Garcia just set a lap time of a 2 minute flat 6.56. Look at Yosor Hernandez, 159.909. And then Shakib Reza, 159.953. Great job there.
So if you're already in the 59s, I believe it was the 58s, we're potentially looking as the target lap time, so there's still time to improve there, but I think the current track conditions are still fast at the moment, so not at optimal grip conditions, so I think they're going to be staying in the 59s for this session.
Meanwhile, Alex Bowen has the provisional pole time, 159.304. Alex Bowen, she's got it, but meanwhile, Dan Powell and Orihara Izaya showing that the Lexus cars have the pace. Is the Lexus cars showing up in the track here in northern Japan?
Yeah, I think the nature of this circuit I was mentioning on the on-board lap, a lot of 90-degree, a lot of slow-speed corners, and it'll be something that potentially does favour the characteristics of the Lexus. It doesn't really have the straight line speed, but it definitely has the cornering ability.
And meanwhile, as for the championship contenders here, Shadowreza Reza improves, both going up to 8th place, 2 minute 220. Meanwhile, Alika and Astor also does not improve. But for Sean Pauly, he has now pulled himself into the pit. That's qualifying over for Pauly. Astor is going to qualify 10th as it stands. Shadowreza Reza will qualify 8th. Mama Zohair bumps down the 2 other championship contenders just behind the championship leader Shazren. Then that's not going to do Astor or Pauly any favors.
Yeah, I was trying to get the close the points gap in the championship, not the qualifying session there with Shazren Reza in a favourable position in terms of the championship contenders, even though Playboard's better than Age, but in the championship context it's still a decent result.
And especially with Shazren Reza having close to 100 points, 99 points to be exact. Shazren Reza is going to need to gain as much track position, as much of a qualifying position ahead of the rest of the contenders here. And right now Shazren Reza is doing what he needs to do, especially in the final portion of the season. Shazren Reza holding on to 8th, while Astor and Paulie down on row 6 as it stands. Shazren Reza is doing a very good job here. Meanwhile, as for the pole sitter, Alex Bowen, if she can improve, then it'll be good for her. She will also have confirmed her commitment to the number 08 regarding all Lexus. Orihara Isaiah hasn't had a confirmation yet. Dan Powell has confirmed his commitment in the number 7 Astor Monster Lexus. He has shown that he has some speed here. And speaking of speed, he qualifies 3rd officially. Alex Grant has officially ended his qualifying run. He will qualify 5th as it stands. Miguel Castro is currently qualified 10th, but where will he end up? Crossing the finish line here, he will bump all the drivers up to 6. Big ups there from the Chilean.
Yeah, good luck there in the closing stages, and the Lexus showing their pace earlier on in this qualifying session, so it might be more Lexus favourite track and would help Isaiah in terms of trying to claw back up the championship standings.
And right now, Taco Zlet is about to finish his qualifying run, as does Daniel Bolatev and Muhammad Zohair. Taco Zlet has bumped Paulie down to 13th. Zohair, where will he qualify? Still stays 10th. Daniel Bolatev, we're about to transition over into the starting grid. Daniel Bolatev, where will he qualify? Does not bump any driver out. And that is the qualifying order here at the moment, and we're going to be transitioning over into basically the starting lineup here for race 1. We have we have a familiar face returning to the front of the field, and that is Alex Bowen, number 8 Shirogane Noah Lexus. Great stuff from her. Orihara Isaiah makes it a Lexus front row. Number 40 Ozar Subaru Lexus, he qualifies 2nd. Dan Powell in the number 7 Matsuri Lexus qualifies 3rd. Great stuff from the American as well. Goes for Hernandez. 35 Sakuramiko Honda qualifies 4th, fastest Honda in the field. Alex Grant not far behind. Remember what we mentioned about the Nissan car being a dark horse in Alex Grant being a dark horse in the championship? Well, he's proving just that. He qualifies 5th. And Miguel Castro, fellow Nissan driver, is in 6th in the number 46 Omar Polka Nissan. Here's Momosaki Reza, number 77, Momosuzune Nissan in 7th. Daniel Bolatev, the next Honda, in 8th, number 10 Tokachi Mitoa Honda. Championship leader Momosaki Reza, number 31 Honda, he qualifies 9th. And then we have Muhammad Zohair, number 10, in the 10th place is the number 22 Shirokami Fubuki Nissan. Alikan Astor, 2nd place in the championship, not where he needs to be. He qualifies 11 in the number 8 Akai Haato Honda. And Utaku Sled, number 12. Asking Nissan qualifies 12th once again. Sean Paulie, very unfavorable position for him. He qualifies 13th when he started the championship standing 140 points behind. That's not going to do him any favors. Lorenzo Ricci qualifies 14th in the number 41 Hoshimachi Suisei Nissan. And rounding out the field on Hoshimari's birthday, Kate Garcia fortunately qualifies last in the Lexus RCF. So a bit of a twist there in qualifying here, as the championship contenders are mired at the back, and those who you don't think are actually battling for the championship is at the front of the field. And as we're going to be transitioning over into the race, and as cars are doing the final preparations, Gibbo, can you share us your thoughts for the start of the race?
Yeah, I think this may be a good potential for Isaiah. Yeah, we're currently sitting 4th in the championship with 411 points. Quite a big gap to the championship lead, but there is potential to break it that top 3, which would be good nonetheless.
And we're gonna get the cars lined up ready, lined up astern for the start of the race here. And obviously, we're gonna be seeing the 2 Lexus cars on the front row. Alex Bowen starts in pole position. Orihara Isaiah alongside him. For all 15 cars have their engines revved up for the start here in Tokachi. And here we go, Alex Bowen getting a pretty decent launch there. Look at Isaiah as well. They're both neck and neck heading into turn 1, but look at Castro. Castro has edge a few on the drive. He has edge. Goes over Hernandez. Castro is now up to 4th place, making use of that powerful Nissan engine here, and we got some side-by-sides. Here, Dan Powell battling Miguel Castro. He's defending Miguel Castro. Shazren Reza's now up to 6th place. Meanwhile, we have some drivers who are mired down at the back. Adak-RMS has bogged down the start. He's now down to 14. Sean Pauly is now back in the points. He's now in 9th place, challenging the 57 car of Alex Grant. He wants to take that 8th place away, but he gets shuffled up around the outside. Alex Bowen leads. Is on the 2nd, Powell 3rd, Castro 4th for a mega start. Hernandez 5th, Shazren Reza 6th after a massive start there from Shazren, the championship leader. Zuhair 7th, Alex Grant 8th, Sean Pauly 9th, and Shazren Reza runs at the top 10.
Yeah, so definitely a lot of shuffle in the field. Shazren Reza a really good start, making up for that sort of lackluster qualifying session, but Bowen good launch and able to capitalise on that pole position and maintain the lead.
And currently we have Alex Bowen already building up nearly a second of a buffer there between her and Isaiah. Powell's not far behind. Look at Hernandez trying to get around the inside of Castro just a bit. He was quite close there to Castro, but not close enough. It's now under pressure from Shazren, and we're about to finish the 2nd sector here. We have Muhammad Zohair, Alex Grant chasing down Muhammad Shazren as well, as does Sean Pauly. Sean Pauly is now, remember, he's 140 points behind the championship leader. He has one of the best chances to fight Shazren for this Split A championship with only 2 rounds to go. But with Sean Pauly now, let's see what he can do to challenge Shazren in 6.
Yeah, Pauly's really going to need to move up there to try and close that gap in the championship standings. Also, Shazren Reza now in 6th place, Pauly in 9th. So, in terms of the championship standings, it still favours for Shazren Reza.
And currently, Pauly, as the drivers start the 2nd lap, Alex Bowen starts 2nd lap, already a second of a buffer debut between her and Isaiah. Powell is not far behind in 3rd, Castro 4th, Hernandez 5th. Hernandez holding on to the top 5 very decently there, the number 35 Sakar Migo Honda. And then we're going to be taking a look at some of the other drivers in the field. Zohair's looking pretty decent in the Nissan as well. This Lexus car obviously having the best pace out there. And obviously Garcia is chasing in and closing in to Astor, who's currently 2nd in the championship standings. This is not what Astor wants, especially with his championship leader, his championship rival leading the standings, and he is actually leading the 3 championship contenders currently in this race. And not to mention, he's in the points, especially in 6th, so he's going to steal the more points than the other 2 championship contenders.
As you were saying, the championship contenders not having the start they want, a lot of them being outside. Of course, Shazren Reza essentially one in the points at the moment. Because they're still putting the pressure on Astor wants to use that favourable Lexus pace in the corners, but as we can see on the straight here, Honda just slightly getting away with that favourable straight line speed.
And yes, we also want to talk about how the Lexus cars are very good in clean air and in the corners here. As you can see, Taco's like trying to make a move around the outside. He was quite close there, had to check up there against Garcia. Now, of course, Garcia, driving the number 6 Hosho Marine Lexus, is basically racing the car on the same day as Hosho Marine's birthday. As we mentioned here, that Hosho Marine is also going to host a new outfit, a new 3D outfit stream in coinciding with her live stream, which will be a concert. So if you're a fan of Hosho Marine and you want to set sail with the captain, the Sencho, you can tune in to Hosho Marine's YouTube channel at 9 p.m. Japanese time, just so that you don't want to miss out on Hosho Marine's idol performance later tonight. And as usual, there will be guests. And as we're about to start lap 3, well, here's the race field Mario, and we're going to see the insights on who will do the undercut and who will do the overcut. Shazren Reza and Yosan Hernandez will be the guys who will be doing the undercut, as does Aligan Astor. And the drivers who are going to be doing the overcut, we're looking at Alex Grant, who will be doing the extreme overcut strategy here, topping up almost fuel compared to everyone else. So expect him to pit later than everyone else. And as for Sean Pauly will hang on into his first stint longer than the other 2 championship contenders. So who knows? We'll see which strategy will ace out in the end.
Yeah, we're expecting that one-stop strategy from everyone today, unlike what we did see at 2 kilometers previously. So we're getting their fuel calculations wrong, having to do 2 stops, and they've been way down in the standings. So I think what the strategists have hopefully got it correct this time. It should just be a one-stop for everybody and no fuel takeovers here.
And speaking of the gaps here, Shazren Reza is catching up on Josor Hernandez here. Shazren is doing very well there to make sure he keeps himself in between 1 second of Yosoro, and not to mention Shazren being in 6th, he's still in a favorable position to be in a good position to win the championship. Not exactly win the championship, but build even more of a championship buffer. The gap between him and Astor, and after Astor not being able to score points, it's easy pickings for Shazren to take 21 points, basically having that 120 point gap after this race. So Shazren in a favorable position to basically steal a lot more points than the championship contender that is Adak Astor. Meanwhile, Sean Pauli is not far behind. Let's see what Sean Pauli can do.
And Pauli trying to make up gap towards the championship row here, still on 463 points in the row, third in the championship standings, and nearly 150 points down, I believe 140 points down in standings in the row. So we definitely want to try and make up some points there. Ninth position, not really getting much in terms of that. Of course, Shazren are still in the favorable position. I think potentially, if he could break up that gap to 200 points in this round, he could clinch the championship here, but it'd be very difficult to do so right now.
And right now, if Shazren wants to clinch the championship as it stands, it won't be this round, as he needs to be in. Shazren needs to be at 300 points ahead of second if he wants to clinch the championship right here. But if he wants to clinch the championship for this round, he needs to have a 200 point buffer to second place, which is either Adak Astor or Sean Pauli in this case. So in this regard, if you want to talk about Shazren clinching the championship before Suzuka, he can do it after race 2, but he needs to be 200 points clear of basically second place. So right now, while it is not out of the question, it's impossible for race 1, but I think it's possible in race 2. But it's still, I believe it's a long shot.
A bit of a long shot with how the point system is in this series. It's not really much opportunity to make that gap, and obviously top 10 scoring points here, and championship contenders not in the points at the moment, they may be able to make it up in the second race, so clinching the championship before Suzuka, as I said, is a bit of a long shot, but nevertheless it's still a good buffer to have at the moment.
And right now we are about to finish a quarter into the race. We're going to be also taking a look into some of the progress charts and who gains a lot and who loses a lot. And speaking of the gainers, Shazren and Zuhair's started 9th and 10th respectively, has now gained 3 positions for both of the drivers. Sean Pauli started 13th, is now up to 9th. Very good stuff there for the driver, currently 3rd in basically 3rd in the championship. Meanwhile, Adak Astor balked down to start. She started 11th, now up to now down to 13th, so he's not in a good position here, representing Haato.
Yeah, as well, the front and the featherweights is kind of in formation at the moment, not really stepping on top of one another, not really challenging. I think Astor is not up close enough at the moment, it's just a bit behind Power, but not really challenging at the moment. And Bowen has absolutely gunned off 4.2 seconds the gap now. She is absolutely flying.
Yes, absolutely flying there, Alex Bowen. She's showing off her muscle. She's flexing her muscle just like her Shirogari Noel. Now, obviously, Shirogari Noel is known to be a bodybuilder in the sense. She's building up a lot of muscle. She's got a lot of protein in her. And Alex Bowen, wanting to emulate that type of performance, is currently holding off that 4-second gap between herself and the next Nexus, which is Orihara Izaya in 2nd. Now, we mentioned that Orihara Izaya is a dark horse of the championship as it stands. Now, Orihara Izaya is showing that with the performance that he has at the moment, he could get closer into the championship contenders as much as he can, despite being like around just under 200 points behind Shazren Reza, currently leading the championship. So while he still has a long shot to battle for the championship lead, he has a very good shot to at least challenge Sean Pauli and Adak Astor for maybe 2nd. Well, that's his realistic shot. But to challenge Shazren Reza, he needs to have a Herculean performance in the final 2 rounds of the season.
Yeah, as I was saying, it's the more potentially realistic outcome looking at it, top 3 in the championship standings. You know, we talk about, you know, nearly everyone being mathematically in it, but it effectively means, like, you know, say you take someone like Garcia, who's in 2nd class with 260 points, they basically have to win every single race, and say Shazren Reza wins like DNF the rest of the season to have a potential in taking the championship. So we talk mathematically, we like to say, oh yeah, it's still competitive, but realistically, it's the top three who has the potential to take the lead.
And right now, Miguel Castro is currently having a hairy car at the moment. Miguel Castro in 4th place, losing a lot of touch there to Dan Powell in 3rd place. As it stands, going to be a Lexus 1, 2, 3. Miguel Castro is going to try to spoil the party for the Lexus Rio, who's currently sitting 1, 2, 3. He's currently losing touch to Dan Powell, and right now, José Hernandez is right around his back bumper.
Yeah, so the other cars still keeping in touch with the two Lexus. Obviously, Bowen's absolutely going off, but as Iron Power haven't really broken off from this main pack yet, so there's still potential to disturb the Lexus trio.
And currently, Alex Bowen is looking to go for the undercut strategy here. Pit early in this race, and make sure you have fresher tires and have faster tires, the faster performance over the guys who are still in their first stint, losing the basically pace and all that stuff, and losing around a second or two over the guys who have pitted for the undercut strategy. So let's see, the drivers making the undercut strategy that I can confirm here is actually Alex Bowen, Muhammad Shazren Reza, and José Hernandez. Watch out for these drivers as they're going to pit early in this race.
Watch out for them again. I think Bowen's not really under any threat for any kind of overcut or undercut for that matter with that gap at the moment, so probably just relatively cruise-ish. That gap at the moment, obviously don't want to get too complacent, but still a good buffer at the moment, anything could happen during the pit stops.
And currently we don't have any drivers building into the pits, but look at José Hernandez really closing in there on Miguel Castro. We have Muhammad Shazren Reza pitting first. He will be the first driver to commit to his strategy. Meanwhile, José Hernandez is trying to get ever so closer to Miguel Castro, but with the basically horsepower advantage of the Nissan relative to the Hondas, Hernandez just couldn't get close enough.
Yeah, slipstream was somewhat effective here, but just not enough. As I said, the Nissan just slightly having more horsepower than the Honda. Nissan and Honda good in terms of straight line speed, but obviously the Nissan is the best of them.
And right now, Astor is also pitted at the same time as Muhammad Shazren Reza. So basically, Astor is going to try to nullify Shazren Reza's undercut strategy and try to minimize the damage in basically track position here by committing to the same strategy as Muhammad Shazren Reza. And with Muhammad Shazren Reza pitting first, then Astor. Shazren Reza will exit ahead of Astor, but that basically nullifies any strategy advantage Shazren Reza currently has.
Yes, at the same time nullifying any advantage there, pitting sort of just under halfway in the race, so probably not going to have too much issue with tyres towards the end, but obviously maybe the oldest tyres or everyone else may have slight issue in terms of tyre management, but we'll have to wait and see on that.
And right now, we're going to be taking a look into some of the current drivers in the field here and see who has yet to pit and who's going to pit. José Hernandez will definitely pit this lap, as does Lorenzo Ricci, Alex Bowen, Muhammad Shazren Reza, and Miguel Castro. So for this lap, we're going to see a busy pit lane and see if Muhammad Shazren Reza and Undercut Astor nailed their strategy when it comes to the undercut. But whatever the case is that the next 5 drivers are going to nullify the championship leader, and the driver running in second, they're going to nullify their basically undercut strategy.
So yeah, it's going to get very busy in a couple of minutes. Really crucial for the crews to get their pit stops right, get right in the box, get the tyres done quickly and the fuel as well. And of course, as we saw last time, get those fuel calculations correct.
And right now we have the few drivers peeling into the pits, as does Muhammad Shazren Reza. No problems here entering the pit lane for a lot of these drivers here, but we're going to be taking a look into a few drivers peeling into the pit. Sean Pauly is now moved out to 5th temporarily here. Here's Muhammad Shazren Reza entering victory corner. And of course he's going to head to the final chicane, which is basically turn 14 and 15. Obviously Asker's not far behind, he's only 6 seconds. But let's see where Shazren Reza ends up over everyone else. Alex Bowen exits the pits. And there is Alex Bowen holding on to this net race lead. José Hernandez is still stuck. Miguel Castro actually beats José Hernandez in the pits. Great stop there from Castro. Good stop there for the pit crew for Castro. So he now exits ahead of Hernandez. Hernandez and Ricci exit behind Muhammad Shazren Reza and behind Undercut Astor. So the undercut strategy for the 2 championship contenders, the ones currently top 2 in the championship, that's working well for them at the moment.
Here we're going with those fresher tyres as well, better than the ones who are a bit warm tyres. I don't think tyre wear is too much of a factor around here, but nevertheless the undercut can still be quite effective. I think in terms of tyre wear, you're probably looking at more rear tyre wear. With these slow corners, a lot more traction zones and much of the other surface around here.
And right now Muhammad Zohair has been called into the pit lane. Right now Muhammad Zohair is into the next few turns. Now obviously don't mind some of the few drivers, some of the few Steam notifications here and all that stuff, but whatever the case is, there Muhammad Zohair and Daniel Bolotev, the next driver to peel into the pits. Here we have Muhammad Zohair, number 22 truck driver from Nissan, has had a pretty lackluster part of the middle part of the season here, and obviously here is Bolotev and Zohair getting into the pits safely. It's time for them to service, have their car serviced by the pit crew, and also Orihara Izaya too.
Yeah, so again, pit lane busy once again.
Oh no! Okay, Garcia! What happened to her? She has basically messed up her entry into the pits, and oh, she's trying her best to get herself out. And that's not going to do her any favors, and that's her teleported back into the garage. That's race over for Kate Garcia.
Despite the lackluster performance looking promising to move up on the field, but it is not to be, so we have to check the replay after the race, but that is very much a shame.
And meanwhile, Alex Bowen gets to cover up Orihara Izai. She reassumes the race lead. And we're going to see more drivers shuffling in. Here we have Lorenzo Ricci 14, Hernandez 13, Astor 12, Shakireza 11, Bolotev 10. Now we only have 4 drivers who have yet to make their pit stops. Dan Powell will be next here. He's currently leading in the number 7 Natsuhiro Matsuri Lexus. Now last week's Friday, Matsuri hosted a Natsuhiro Matsuri restart. Now basically that's her 4th anniversary live stream, so she's basically going back to roots in a sense. And in that case, she has debuted a new outfit in addition to her idol performances. Now Dan Powell, wanting to emulate a good performance from Matsuri, is currently qualified in the top 3, manages to stay in the lead. Let's see if the overcut strategy can work for Dan Powell.
Yeah, definitely stretching out the stint here. Dude, sometimes the Lexus a bit worse on tyres because of their corner, and obviously taking the corners a lot faster and more opportunity to wear out the tyres, but we'll see how well Haato can manage it. As he goes into the pits right now, and I think just slightly touched the fence on the way in.
Yeah, slightly touched the basically guardrail there for Dan Powell, but I don't think there's a problem from him too much. Here is Sean Pauli, championship contender, currently 3rd in the championship standing. He's now peeling into the pits. He's gonna hope that the pit crews are gonna service the cars for as fast as they can. Make sure they service his car as fast as possible so that he can gain an advantage over Alkan S and crucially Mohammad Shazren Reza. Alex Bowen is currently barreling into the main straight here, as does Orihara Izaya. Miguel Castro looks to solidify a 3rd place in the number 46 Omar Polka Nissan. Meanwhile, Shazren Reza is not far behind. There he is chasing Miguel Castro. Here is Sean Pauli. He's still there. He will exit just behind Mohammad Shazren Reza and crucially ahead of Muhammad Zohair. They're going to be side by side. Actually, not quite. Sean Pauli, the overcut strategy works for the British, for the Brit driver. So Sean Pauli is in contention to battle Shazren Reza in basically the second half of this race.
And multiple opportunities opened up now with that strategy. Now 3.5, just over 3 seconds behind Shazren Reza. Obviously not positioned he wants if he wants to close up the championship gap, but nevertheless to try and take points away at the opportunity and also close the gap to Astor in the 2nd championship.
And right now, Sean Pauli with the slightly colder tires, with Zohair having the activated warm tires, Zohair is hounding Sean Pauli's rear end. And right now, Sean Pauli is doing his absolute best to hold on into his position at the moment. And currently, Sean Pauli is 7. So there's a 6. Let's see if he can close the gap. I am going to be off the mic for around a short bit. So hopefully, Kibo, you can cover up what's happening on the track.
Right, so Shazren Reza So the Poly at the moment still trying to hold up to hair here, so just under a second the margin now. So on slightly cooler tyres aren't quite up to temperature yet. You see that margin to Shazren is increasing slightly, so tyres not up to temps, a lot of pressures here. Shazren definitely more people on the tyres, only less than a second behind Castro. Now Castro's actually now Grant, the last one to make their pit stop, so that will mean that Bowen resumes the race lead, and we're back to our regular formation. I think everyone will now have made their pit stop except for Garcia, who's teared now from clobbering the arm coat on Andrew. Did notice a couple of drivers going a bit hot in there. It's a little bit of a sort of chicane kingpin, obviously. People trying to maximise time, going a bit hot and try and cut that corner, but obviously there's a bit of arm coat there, you don't want to hit that, but obviously we can't see that's resulted in terminal damage. We see Grant coming up now just ahead of Polly. So not a bad stop there, but we have caught tyres and maybe under threat throughout this lap, so not great about Polly wants to flip on Grant in between these championship rivals, so we'll look to dispose of him quickly, making up, getting right up close there really quickly as well. And into more technical section here, Grant still, yeah, you can see the tyres not up to temperature at the moment, doesn't quite have that grip.
Oh dear. And right now, as we're about to get back into the field here, Alex Grant is between Sean Pauli and Mohamed Reza. Obviously, he's one of the last drivers to basically pit for fresh rubber and fuel. He's now exited ahead of Sean Pauli. And as it stands, Reza will have 32 points, with Sean Pauli only getting 12. That would mean Reza will build a gap towards the championship contenders. But crucially, with Isaiah getting 75 points over Reza's 32, that would mean that Reza will lose at least 40 points to Isaiah, but crucially will gain some few valuable points over Astor and Paulie.
Yeah, so despite some shuffling with the other potential contenders in the championship, it's still going to be a net gain for Shazren at this rate.
And right now, as it stands here, we only have 14 drivers running into the track. Of course, with Kate Garcia clipping the guardrail in, I believe she clips the guardrail on pit entry, and that obviously spun the car around and basically damaged the suspension and all that stuff. And that's basically her race over. We will have 14 cars left on the field here. Alex Bowen leading very comfortably. She could be on route for win number 2 in the Hololive GT3 Japan Series. Isaiah is in second, Powell third, Castro fourth. Reza is really hounding Castro for 4th place, like working heated to steal more points away from the championship contenders.
Yeah, I think you were saying before, like 2 DNFs for Shazren in the past 3 races will definitely want to make up for that. Despite that, but for the championship wants to extend the points in any way it can. And is absolutely hounding Castro and potentially disrupting that Lexus 1-2-3.
Yes, and currently as it stands right now, Castro and Reza are 4th and 5th. And currently we have this Lexus stronghold that is occupied by Bowen, Isaiah and Powell. And look at Reza really hounding the rear end of Castro, but obviously Shazren is trying he's going to try to find an opportunity to pass Castro, but the best option may be in the corners, as the Lexus cars, the Nissan cars have insane straight line speed.
Yeah, so Nissan having that horsepower advantage, even with the Hondas in the slipstream, the Nissan still can slightly break away. But Castro now right up against Powell just sort of falling back from the top 2 Lexus there, Bowen and Isaiah, so now under threat from Nissan and Honda.
And we're taking a look into some of the lap times here. Castro is actually not actually losing a bit on Powell, but if we were to take a look into sector times, Castro is actually faster than Powell by just 1/10 on the first sector. But they're equaling their performance, their times are equal on the second. Let's see how close Castro can be as they're about to exit the final turn.
Yeah, so when I expected you thought that Lexus will be able to break away in the corners, but that's not really the case here. Powell kind of losing ground. Shazren's right up in the slipstream, really tucked in there, gaining slightly gained, but I don't think it's quite enough. The Nissan power is just too much.
And currently, Alex Grant sets the personal best lap time. He's pulling away between him and Sean Pauly. Pauly currently losing ground to Grant, but I think he's still holding steady to Zohair in 8th. Now obviously Daniel Bolatev, no longer in championship contention, holds on steady in the points at 9. His current goal is to try to get as high in the championship points as possible.
Yeah, there's definitely still a lot of potential in the midfield. It's very close and very open in the midfield at the moment, so even if you're not fighting for the top of the championship, there's still plenty of opportunity left in this penultimate round, so get all the points wherever you can, even if you're not up there.
And as it stands right now, Hernandez currently 13th, fighting for the silver spoon against Alcan Astor. Alcan Astor obviously ruining that he has had a horrible start and a horrible qualifying session. Currently Astor is doing whatever he can to get himself back up in the top 10.
Yeah, obviously not doing any favours in terms of trying to close out that championship gap, absolutely gaining nothing whatsoever. Sitting in 12 is a couple of seconds away from the point standing, so there is still potential there, but it's just not going to be enough for Shazren is.
And currently for the championship leader here, he's currently sitting 5th. Sean Pauly is in 7th, but meanwhile, Alex Bowen still holding on that 4-second gap between Isaiah. Powell is losing ground to Isaiah, and looking at this portion of the racetrack here, this is where the Nissan basically loses out to the Lexus in the corners here. A lot of the medium guys being cornered. That is a disadvantage that the Nissans currently have. But right now, with the dirty air slightly that comes out of the Lexus cars, because you can see Castro really losing ground to Powell. But we're going to be taking a look at the drivers as we're about to cross over to the start finish line. You can see here that Castro is losing out to Dan Powell by 2/10.
Yeah, so Powell just been able to break away now. I think he's now just been able to manage those tyres, but get enough grip to try and extend out a gap, while Castro is still under pressure from Shazren, so probably concentrating more on behind rather than in front.
But right now, let's see if Castro is able to hold on to 4th place here. Obviously, Miguel Castro is obviously down in the championship standings here. By down in championship standings here, he's in 12th coming into round 9. Let's see what Miguel Castro can do to basically get himself back up into the top 10, as we're seeing Challenger really getting into that rear end of the Nissan. Let's see what he can do.
Yeah, I think where Castro is at the moment, if potentially hold the 4th, or even get a podium, doing good favours in the championship, get up into that midfield with our titles at the moment.
And right now, the moment is coming for Shazren Reza. The moment has not come yet for Sean Pauly, as you can see, Muhammad Zohair is really catching up to Sean Pauly. As you can see, Shazren Reza's lap times compared to Sean Pauly. Sean Pauly is 4/10 slower than Shazren Reza on that last lap, and Zohair is a 10th faster than Pauly on that last lap. So basically, the pack is back behind Pauly is catching up to the driver in the number 56 incoming Korone Honda.
Yeah, potential for Zohair to get into that slipstream as he catches up. And we did say that Nissan has better straight line speed, and we're even better in the slipstream. So there's once possibly under half a second the gap is in the lane straight, there is the potential for an overtake.
And currently Alex Bowen, we haven't talked enough about her. Alex Bowen basically qualified on pole, is currently leading this race, leads I believe the most laps of the race at this point. She has clinched the most laps led in race 1, so good job from her. We don't know, we can't really tell on who gets the fastest lap so far, but as of right now we have basically the field getting themselves into turn 1. Sean Pauly is still building up, eking up a good and decent gap, a good buffer there between him and Zohair. Bolatov's not far behind the 22, as the Shaki Reza in 10th.
Looking at the leaders here who approach past the 3/4 mark of this race, I think Isaiah was slightly closed. The gap's like not all gone, but I think that gap was just under 5 seconds, now 4.3 seconds, so slowly closing that gap, but not really enough to be on the front as well. It's just, you know, using that buffer, just managing tyres, just making sure she gets over the finish that way.
And currently, we want to take a look into some of the gaps from the gainers here in this race. Sean Pauly started 13th and is now up to 7th. And Shazren Reza was 9, is up to 5th. Those are the big gainers in the race, worthy of basically contenders of the championship. Meanwhile, Jose Hernandez, after qualifying solidly in fourth, is now dropped down, well down to 13th. So commiserations there from the Spanish driver.
Yeah, so there's some qualifying, but just not there in terms of the race pace. Well, he potentially had a poor pit stop as well, getting caught behind traffic and just going nowhere now.
And currently we have a few of the stories here. We're talking about some pit stops here. Shazren Reza, though, being credited with 2 pit stops there, despite only seeing him only do 1 stop, so that's a bit of a glitch there in the timing tower. And if we were looking at the tire age there, Shazren Reza has the oldest tires available as it stands at this Adak Astor. But if you want to look at Dan Powell has fresher tires than Isaiah, and Bowen and Castro have the same tire life. So they're looking to have their pace falling off. But let's see if Shazren Reza is able to close into basically Castro. Not close enough there despite being just 102 faster.
Yeah, so still slightly closing the gap, but just not close enough. That selection was working if it was closing ever so slightly, but still not enough with that Nissan power. So time is running out for Shazren Reza to clinch his 4th, and Castro really think a podium will be on the cards. Power still increasing that gap, still trying to hold on to that podium position for Lexus lockout.
And currently, as for Sean Pauli, by the way, Sean Pauli is doing his best to minimize the damage in the championship. Remember, if the points are as it stands here, it will not be 140 points, the gap between Shazren Reza and Sean Pauli. It will be 160. As we're looking at Pauli only gaining 12 points and Shazren Reza only gaining 32 points, the gap will increase to 160 points, and that means Sean Pauli will be on the outside looking in. Possibly, if Shazren Reza can still maintain a good championship, gap over the top 3.
As I was saying before, there is still that potential for Shazren Reza to clinch the championship after race 2. It's 160 points, so it's definitely probable, but would potentially require a win or basically a podium finish for that to happen.
But not just a win or a podium finish, it has to also take into account Sean Pauli not performing well, as does Adak Astor. Remember, heading into this race, Adak Astor was 99 points basically behind Shazren Reza, and with him not even scoring points at all, the gap will increase to around 121, which would mean that Adak Astor, while he still stays in 2nd place, he will still be behind, he will still be ahead of Sean Pauli by just around 40 plus points, 40 odd points. So whatever the case is, look at this. We're going to be seeing a side-by-side battle here, I think, between Daniel Bolatev and Muhammad Zohair. Daniel Bolatev is really getting close there. Looks into the inside there at the end of the final turn. Zohair is really struggling for grip. Let's see if Bolatev can actually pounce Muhammad Zohair for position.
I just had a look there, but wasn't able to get Alonso enough to solidify and overtake this and still breaking away with that straight line speed. Nissan's tyre wear is slowly starting to kick in moving as we head towards the tail end of this race, so we may see some last minute desperate dives here in the closing stages.
And right now here, as we're about to get into the final stages of this race, Powell is losing ground to Isaiah, Castro is losing ground to Powell. Shazren Reza is definitely aiming to pounce as much positions as possible here. He's getting very close there to Castro. Grant is also getting into the mix there for the battle for 4th.
Yeah, but we're very much still on just under 3 tenths, 4 tenths the gap now, so definitely keeping it within under half a second. I think it's that under half a second you just need to try and get that slipstream, and Grant's also getting in on it as well, so sort of a Honda stuck between 2 misses at the moment. And
we're looking at the last laps here. Sean Pauli with a 2:6.57, Shazren Reza 2:01.394. This is going to be very crucial there for both Alex Grant and Sean Pauli to catch up to the championship leader. Now, of course, Alex Grant is currently 5th in the championship as the championship contending dark horse, and Sean Pauli definitely in the thick of the championship battle here. Let's see what Grant and Pauli can do to challenge championship leader with only 2 laps to go.
Yeah, Polly's definitely going to want to have a look there sometime, but Shazren is still falling on the fifth row, still having a look. I think it's picking out now. Castro, a bit of a poor exit, I think. Now, Patricia compromising into the first one. I think there's overlap. No, there isn't. Castro just a bit screwy on the exit, but still able to hold on to that power.
And look at the lap time difference here. Sean Pauli is over a second faster than Alex Grant and Mohamed Shazren. Remember, Sean Pauli has had fresher tires than Shazren. Remember, Shazren has pitted way earlier than everyone else, and Sean Pauli pitted later than everyone else. So we'll be seeing Shazren's tires definitely fading away in basically in the last 2.5 laps.
Yeah, tires low on the fourth cliff for some of these drivers who pitted very early on. I think particularly the rear tires with the amount of traction zones there are in the circuit. Not that many in terms of high-speed corners, but traction would definitely be an issue here.
Traction is basically breaking out there for drivers who have basically committed to an undercut strategy. This is the risk of the undercut strategy that they have basically agreed on to. And for Shazren Reza, he knew very well that if he wants to get as much track position, he needs to do the undercut strategy. But as it stands right now, basically it's not just him who's basically losing ground, it's also Miguel Castro. But Miguel Castro, with having that straight line speed of the Nissan, is going to be making life for Shazren Reza very difficult when it comes to overtaking Castro for 4th place. Meanwhile, Alex Grant is catching up. And look at the gap here between Shazren Reza and Sean Pauli. And if you take a look into the paces for this first and second sectors here, as you can see, 3/10 faster than Shazren Reza than Sean Pauli on the first sector, and 2/10 faster than Shazren Reza on the second sector.
Yeah, so Doc Highway definitely playing into consideration in the last couple of laps of this race, and Castro sort of coming a hold up in the pack. Now we do remember how Castro was less than a second behind Alexis at the start of the stint, but that's absolutely pulled away. Shazren Reza having a little look, but not, as you can see, the Nissan still breaking away. You would think that Shazren Reza would have stayed in that slipstream, taken all that slipstream and ducked out the last moment, but made Castro go, leaving a little bit of space to leave it open slightly, so it's still under pressure.
And currently the battle for the championship, who knew, could boil down to the battle for only 5th place. But as of right now here, Pauli can pass Grant. If Grant can pass Shazren Reza, that will mean Shazren Reza will be stealing less points than compared to Astor and Sean Pauli, and this will play into the hands of the drivers who are currently sitting 2nd and 3rd in the championship standings.
Yeah, definitely a lot of shuffling around the championship standings, and also Kidman Bowen still over 5 seconds in the lead now. It's currently in the big field of the championship, but I think there's also potential to break into the top 5 with this result, so definitely a lot of shuffling around in these closing stages.
And right now Alex Grant closing into Mohamed Shazren Reza. We're on lap 19 of this race. We are only just about one lap and a third away from the end of Tokachi Race 1, Round 9 of the 2022 Hololive GT3 Japan Series Split A. We've seen a lot of trials and tribulations for certain drivers here, not just for this race, but for the season all round. And as for Mohamed Shazren Reza, is really closing up there to Miguel Castro, but it's not that close enough. Alex Grant and Sean Pauli really getting into the mix here. Alex Grant only 7/10 behind Shazren. Sean Pauli is only 1.2 seconds behind Alex Grant. Let's see what the final lap entails for all these drivers.
Yeah, I think the only chance left is to be that main straight, try and get a good exit, but we saw the Nissan still able to break away even with a slightly poor exit, so let's see here, no one. I think Shazren has got a decent exit, but that Nissan got a decent exit as well, so I don't think he's going to get it, and I'm not sure he's going to get it in the corners. Not really much overtaking chance in the corners here.
And so that would mean that Miguel Castro will have the best chance to defend his 4th place away from Shazren Reza, who's currently leading the championship. Sean Paul is going to be trying to sniff that 6th place away from Alex Grant. Grant's going to try to take away that 5th place away from Shazren Reza. Daniel Bolata and Thomas O'Hara looking to try to balance themselves out for 8th and 9th. Shakib Reza consolidating at 10th place. Taco's like not far behind Shakib Reza in 11th. Astor having that, I'm not sure, less than desirable run in 12th, as does Yosor Hernandez. For Alec and Astor, he's bound for a championship. Jose Hernandez, he started 4th, is now down to 13th. Lorenzo Ricci is just there in 14th.
And last but not least, lastly, Garcia DNF, and of course on that mishap on the pit stop, so it's at 14 finishes what we have here, as Bowen is entering the final stages of the last lap.
And currently Alex Bowen going into the final sector of the final lap of this race. Alex Bowen, she's showing that she has got a good amount of pace here, and she's looking forward to get that win number 2 for Shirogari Noel, the Dancho. Here is Mama Shazren Reza closing on into Miguel Castro. Not quite close enough there, Shazren Reza. Dan Powell in third, Ori Harizai in second. And here we have Alex Bowen getting into the final 2 turns, the final chicane. Alex Bowen has had a commanding run, doing it for Shirogari Noel Dancho. She's gonna bring home win number 2 for herself and for Shirogari Noel. Alex Bowen wins at Tokachi.
Absolutely commanding victory. In fact, the Alexa Flag had no issues at all from pole position as they were taking second and Powell rounding out the podium, and Castro just holding on for 4th.
Good job there from Miguel Castro, and fending off the championship leader, Shazren Reza, who started 9th, is now up to 5th. Sean Paul is doing an absolutely amazing job from 13th place. Manages to basically minimize the damage in 7th. Zuhair 8, Walev 9, Shaki Reza 10, Tackles Light 11, Astor 12, now is 13th, and Lorenzo Ricci routing up all of the rest of the field in 14th.
And of course, Garcia, the only DNF there from that mishap, and trying to go in for the pistol. You want to know when stop off as well. People treating the curb, not really much respect. They're trying to cut that corner and turn into that, and smashing that upper at the end and DNFing.
Yeah, and there's a pretty shame. It's a bit of a shame there for Garcia, as we'll be transitioning over into basically the end of this race, the end results for all of these drivers here. It's actually one of the slower races here so far. But meanwhile, as it stands, Alex Bowen scoring the win for the number 08 Shirogari Noel Lexus on the commanding victory here. Takes win number 2 of the season for Harizaya. Second, very good stuff from the Iraqi, basically being the dark horse. Basically, all the dark horses showed up for the championship for basically trying to contend Shazren for the championship. As for the other championship contenders, they're pretty off there. And we have Dan Powell locking out the Lexus 1, 2, 3, basically the podium sweep for the Lexus cars. Miguel Castro holding on to 4th place. Shazren Reza 5th, Alex Grant 6th, Sean Pauly 7th, Zuhair 8th, Daniel Balatev 9th, Shaki Reza rounds out the top 10. Tackles like 11, Alcan Astor 12, Jose Hernandez 13th, Lorenzo Ricci 14th, and of course we have Kate Garcia DNF after trying to cut the basically track on pit entry. And speaking of basically Kate Garcia's misfortunes, we're going to be taking a look into what happened to Kate Garcia at the start. So we're going to move to Kate Garcia as she's about to basically get into the pits here. And here we see Kate Garcia basically at the end of lap 7. Kate Garcia gets into the final turn, and Gibbo, you may want to take it over from here.
Yeah, so business as usual here, tucking into the pit lane, and yeah, just turned in too early. I was trying to do a cut on that curb and just turned in too early. I think could have potentially reversed there, but just decided to go forward and hit the armcar again, and I was absolutely beached it.
And we're gonna go on board with the number 6. Here we have Kate Garcia on board, and as you mentioned, oh, that's way too early there for Kate Garcia there, and obviously that's not going to do her much favors. And as we're about to get the championship, basically the standings underway, we have like a huge, basically a swing in the championship in Shazren Reza's favor. We did mention that Shazren Reza's gap to Sean Pauly is now 160 points. We also would like to mention that we also would like to mention that he's now built up a gap to Alcan Astor around 130 points actually. Due to him gaining around 30 points over Alcan Astor. And speaking of the championship standings here, there it is. Mohammad Shazren Reza leads the championship still, now over 134 points ahead of Alcan Astor. And like we mentioned, well, actually no, 148 points ahead of basically actually no okay, actually we need to take a look into this. Or Harizari has now moved up to 3rd place, and Alex Bowen as well. So basically it's not just Alex Bowen, it's not just Ori Harizari who is actually the dark horse for the championship, but it's also going to be talking about Alex Bowen, who's also in the bigs. And with Sean Pauli having a pretty meh run from 3rd in the championship, he's now dropped down to 5th. Alex Ren now drops to 6th, Joseph Hernandez 7th, Richie in 8th, Dan Powell now jumps up to 9th after a solid run in the podium, Tacos led 10th, Zuhair now drops down into the bottom 5 for the first time in the championship. Castro 12, Shaki Reza 13, Kate Garcia 14, and Daniel Bolata still holds on to 50. Now, as it stands, you need to be 300 points behind the championship leader if you still want to have that chance of battle for the championship. And officially, you need to be 334 points and above. And as it stands right now, Miguel Castro, Muhammad Shakir Reza, and Kate Garcia have now been officially knocked out of championship contention, unfortunately. So, Gibbo, we want to share your thoughts of basically race 1 while we are about to load race 2 of the basically here in Tokachi.
As I said before, commanding veteran Bowen just lights the flag. Veteran not really under much pressure at all, and Shazren is still able to extend that gap in the championship. It would be a tough ask to clinch it on this race, but definitely has the buffer there coming into the last round at least.
And we did mention that Alika and Astor is around 130 points behind Shazren Reza. And in order for Shazren Reza to clinch the championship, Shazren Reza will need to have a tall order to do so. And this also requires luck as well as this. And Shazren Reza will need to require basically the misfortunes of Alika and Astor in this race. And hang on, we're going to be restarting the session once again due to a mishap in the AI just a bit. Meanwhile, we're back in Tokachi for qualifying for race 2 in Tokachi International Speedway. Here's Muhammad Reza being the first to get on track as usual.
It's a bit more overcast for this session. It's not on track 100%, so we might see faster lap times, but a bit gloomy this time around. So track temps now down 22 degrees and get 22 degrees track, so time may be a bit of an issue.
And so we're gonna be scrolling over to some of the few drivers left. No headlights on, it's not bright enough for a lot of these drivers here. We have José Hernandez still going out early as well. And we're gonna be shifting our focus, our cameras, to some of the few good contenders here. Here we have Alkan Astor. Last race he finished 2nd. So Gibbo, while I do take another break, how about you try to talk about some of your thoughts on the championship contenders, and also try to talk about Ori Harizai's lap.
Yeah, so as I said, the championship's still mathematically open for a lot of the field, but realistically, Shazren has that much of a commanding lead. It's, I think, a bit unlikely to clinch it unless the rest of the field unless the contenders have an absolute horrible race 2. But heading into the season finale, Suzuka is definitely going to have a commanding lead, at least if he can maintain his full lead into race 2. So I think a solid points finish would definitely serve well for that buffer. But we have said in the past that, you know, Shazren has been going really well, the short race, and then all of a sudden technical issues or reliability issues forcing him to run the race. So it's still a lot to play for a lot of people, even if we like to think that, you know, he's probably not organised and sorted, but, you know, both, you know, Virtual and Will Motorsports demonstrate that it's not over until the final round, so still plenty of opportunities, and not to mention the midfield as well. We saw how tight the midfield was, like less than even single-digit margins there, so there's definitely every opportunity for everyone to make up spots here, even if you're mathematically out of the championship. So just saw on board the side here, so all the decent contenders here. Had a pretty decent race, first race as well, so was able to get up there in the top 5 of the championship standings, and people now finishing out laps, starting their first flying laps as well after 5 minutes left in the session. So as we follow us out here, heading into the final corner, setting up for the first flying lap. These things that they're not just walking there, just keeping it nice and stable. So well, on front straight here, still 6 gear corner. We did see it again over 250 and 260 k's, but we can see the Lexus straight line deficit not even touching 260. We did see in the previous qualifying session how Honda's in this is able to touch 260, but not the Lexus here, so it's all in the corners. Still heading double right hand here, second and third corner, still low speed torque, 90-degree-ish corners, keeping it tidy. Again into Acon corner. Keep it so using all that curve into terrace corner, looking back straight here, can sort of relax a bit before heading into south top corner, so medium speed right hand third gear. Into SG corner with a slight second gear corner, so keep it nice and tucked in, and then immediately switching back to the right hand side for paddock bend, and now for the first proper back straight here, third, fifth gear, setting himself up for the hairpin curve, will be a hard braking zone heading into there, so braking now, third, second, first gear, keep it nice tucked in, keep it nice and stable. Now head back into the twins corner, looking there, left hand kick now back into the twins corner, so a double apex, hairpin effectively, and then heading into west end corner, little mini back straight here, and then another 90-degree bend, so a fourth, third gear corner there, so decent medium speed corner in terms of how the Lexus handles, then into victory corner, third gear. Still keep it nice and stable, just late gear change downs, not the fastest line there, but still pretty decent nonetheless. And then second gear for the last left and right handers. We're looking for a 1:59.3 provisional pole set by the championship leader, so definitely trying every opportunity to clinch. We'll see what this I can do. 56, 7, 8, 9, 58, 7. So first driver into the 58s, we were sort of right how the track has become more gripped up. So
meanwhile, Taco's Light qualifies 4th, Fernandez 3rd. We have Kate Garcia about to finish her lap. She's actually very decent there in her car at the moment. Bumps Shazren down to the second row. Let's see what Shazren can do. Bumps his brother off of 3rd. He's now qualifying 3rd. Alex Grant qualifies 5th. Daniel Bolate qualifies 6th. Lorenzo Ricci having the fastest second sector. Bumps Shakib and Shazren down a few positions. Ricci's now at the 3rd.
Yeah, track's definitely gripped up. We'll now see more drivers in the 58s, not just the Lexus, not the Lexus lockout that we saw before. So Ricky and Shakib Renzo and Nissans and Person Redso have to break into the Lexus at the moment. Still some of the 7 laps. But power at the moment as well for Astor, so still a few more first 5 laps to count.
Dan Powell sets the fastest lap time. She is now bumped Orihara Isaiah out to pole position. Meanwhile, Alec and Astor qualifies a lowly 9th. Sean Foley qualifies 5th. This is what he needs. This is basically there will be. They did mention that some of the field guys here, especially for some of the future members in the Hall of GT3, we're talking about Zeke Wimberly. Zeke Wimberly, who is about to basically, we don't talk about some of the future drivers in the Hall of GT3. Now, Zeke Wimberly is due to take a Nissan ride in the next Hall of GT3 Japan Series season. He will take the number 54 Hakui Koyori Nissan. Of course, it's going to be a concept ride until there is a new idle outfit for the Gen 6 cars. Or the case is Zeke says that there may be a clutch performance for Sean Foley. This might be the round where Sean Foley will still be in it.
Yeah, still just in there, one of those days within that mathematical shot of the championship and into the final round, so still well to play for as the qualifying session closes out. People will get their last 5 laps now.
And actually, look at this. Alec is getting pretty slow there. First second, only 5/10 off. So this is not what Astor really wants here. If he wants to get himself in the championship hunt, he needs to do something about it. Meanwhile, Kate Garcia, 158.5 flat for Kate Garcia. After crashing out in the pits on race 1, Kate Garcia is showing that she's got the pace.
Yeah, she wants to show she absolutely still has it despite the mishaps in race 1. Just wants to put that behind her and just hopefully get provisional pole here at the moment. So not Castro's the best possession, best second sector here. So we'll get for in the front row potentially. 8. No, won't be pole, but improvement to 6.
Great job there from basically a few drivers. Alex Astor has not peeled into the pits. That's qualifying over for him. He will look to qualify at least 11 unless we got Jose Hernandez bumping up the field. We have Alex Bowen qualifying in 5th. Let's see where Alex Bowen stands. He qualifies 5th. Teresa barreling into the final turn. Let's see where Teresa ends up. He qualifies 9th. And as for the rest of the drivers here, we only have Hernandez, who just crossed the line. He will start 14th. But look at this one. Tom Pauly will look to qualify 7th. Shazren will qualify 9th. Algan Astor will not qualify 11th. Now Elvin Orihara Isaiah not being able to improve. I think that's qualifying over.
Yeah, it doesn't really look on the front there unless there's an absolutely amazing third sector, but it doesn't look like I'm gonna make an improvement either, but still going for it. Garcia looks to be solidifying pole position, so as we have the last driver across the line, and that should be Garcia on pole.
And that would be it. Hey Garcia, very good job there from the Vietnamese registered driver to start on pole with the fastest lap time in qualifying 2 for race 2 here in Tokachi. Forget the starting grid. This is the performance she needs actually. Remember, Jose Marie is scheduled to perform her concert later tonight in her YouTube channel. She will be performing a concert alongside her fellow Hololive members on stage. And right now, Kate Garcia is on top of everyone else. Kate Garcia with the lap time of 158.5. Kate Garcia, number 6, Jose Marie Lexus qualifies on pole. Very good stuff from her. Dan Powell qualifies 2nd. Orihara Zayed makes it 3rd for a Lexus 1, 2, 3. Lorenzo Ricci 4th, the only descent to break the Lexus top 5. Which Alex Bowen currently 5th. Miguel Castro 6th. Sean Paul is 7th. Mohammad Shazren Reza in 8th. Shazren Reza 9th. Muhammad Zuhair 10th. Alex Astor 11th. Alex Grant 12th. Daniel Bolativ 13th. We'll hope for his recovery back home as soon as possible. We wish for his safe returns back to his hometown in, I think, Astor or Almaty. I don't know about that. Jose Hernandez 14th, and Adam Takaslet rounds out the field here in 15. Now, before we get the race transition underway, we'd like to hear your thoughts of the qualifying session here for race 2.
Yeah, so complete opposite for Garcia. Garcia was at the back for race 1, but now in front for race 2, so we definitely want to make up for that mishap in race 1. And Polly still in as well, qualifying ahead of the championship leader, so still a bit to play for.
And we're going to be transitioning over to the race start. Remember, Kate Garcia, reversal of fortunes here once again in Hall GT3. She started at the back in race 1, and now she's going to start at the front in race 2. Dan Powell is now going to be alongside her for the race start. Who will edge ahead at the start as we're about to start race 2 for Split here in Tokachi, and the race is underway. Kate Garcia with a very decent launch here. But look at Dan Powell. Dan Powell is definitely aced the start out of everyone else. Look at Dan Powell. He's going to burst himself into the race lead. Dan Powell. And there's a contact. We had contact between Richie. And Richie is now out. And now we can see Shazren being backed off. And with Lawrence Driver being backed off as well. And we have Mohamed Zohair trying to challenge Shazren. Yes, Lorenzo Ricci out in the first lap. And that's probably karma for what Kento Shiden had done back in Autopolis. And now we have Garcia battling his eye for second. Shazren and Zohair side by side into the first sector. And it looks like it will be Shazren's 8th place. But crucially enough, Sean Paul is in 6th. And we were talking about the top 10 drivers in the field right now. Dan Powell in 1st, Garcia 2nd, Isaiah 3rd, Castro 4th, Bowen 5th, Pauly 6th, Chucky Reza in 7th, Chucky Reza in 8th, Zuhair 9th, and Alex Grant in 10th.
Yeah, Garcia and Bob down the start. They're not really having a great job there, and compromised by Powell having the more favoured inside line into the first corner, and had to back off as now up in the man pack while Powell has already broken away towards the second lead.
And we just talked about some few other drivers here. They made contact. Remember, Lorenzo Ricci started 4th, and he basically had a tussle with, I think, Miguel Castro in the race start, and that puts him with an uncontrollable and twitchy car exiting turn 1. Then get contact with some of the other drivers here. Let's see if they have made contact with. Let's see. He did make contact with Miguel Castro, but fortunately, Shazren manages to get himself. Basically check himself up and avoids a collision. That's the good stuff there from Shazren to avoid a further collision between some of the other drivers. But whatever the case is, Miguel Alcázar has a bent up front end slightly.
Yeah, so a few of the drivers going to be running up with some aero damage, and Ricky are definitely out of the race now after that first corner incident, so definitely something to look at after this race. So not the clean start that we saw in race 1.
Yeah, not exactly the clean race start that we saw back in race 1, and obviously with Richie being having the worst out of all of this. Actually, we need to take some of the closer look here between Bowen and Pauly. Obviously, Bowen is under threat from Sean Pauly. Both of them have already won 2 races in Hololive GT3. Let's see if one of these drivers are going to edge themselves out of each other. Remember, Dan Powell and basically Kate Garcia is also looking for their second win in the Hololive GT3 series as it stands for their cars. Obviously, Brendan McConley, driver before Garcia, has won a race in the Porsche Marine Lexus before McConley basically took some time off in Hololive GT3. And speaking of McConley, he will be back in the Hololive GT3 series, in the Hololive GT3 International Series. He will be driving the number 99 Gaogura Nissan in the GT3 International Series. Starting in, I believe, late September. We'll be announcing details about the series later on as we're about to finish this round on. Meanwhile, Sean Pauly is still holding on to 6. Shakib Reza is going to try to flex his muscles over his brother, Shazren Reza. Now Shakib Reza is now out of title contention, so Shakib Reza has nothing to lose, but for Shazren Reza, he has everything to lose. So Shakib Reza really wants to try to get his, make sure his brother is behind him. So this is basically a pride battle between the 2 siblings.
Yeah, it's a sibling battle once again. I think we did see this a bit in Suzuka East as well, so always coming together eventually, or hopefully not literally in this case. Really not really do well for Shazren Reds in terms of the championship set. Shakib Reds are not in championship contention, so can kind of do what he wants really.
And right now Sean Pauly is really closing on Alex Bowen here, but the gap is only 4 tenths between Bowen and Pauly. Meanwhile, we'll be taking a look at the race tomorrow to see who will pit first and who will pit later. And actually, we want to take a look at some of the pit gaps, the fuel window for some of the drivers here. Undercut Astor has fuel to the brim, so there is no fuel trickery in Undercut Astor's car or for any other Honda. He just wants to make sure he's pumped himself up to the very brim to make sure he go for the extreme overcut strategy. As does Joseph Hernandez and Mohamed Reza. Meanwhile, we could be seeing a side-by-side battle here, but it's not quite for some of them. And as for the driver doing that quick undercut strategy, we have Alex Grant and Alex Bowen. And as for Sean Pauly will also commit to the same strategy as Mohamed Reza. So basically, Pauly is going to look to stay where he is at the moment to make sure he can basically nullify Reza's advantage in the championship.
Yeah, I think in Astor's case, definitely saw a little lackluster qualifying now compared to his championship rival, and just wanted to take a gamble on the extreme overcut. So maybe a bit slower on this first stint, especially being heavy on fuel, but with fresh tyres towards the end, see if he can try and make up a deficit, but it will be a tough ask.
And right now, as you can see here, Sean Pauly tries to make a move around the outside of Alex Bowen in the back straight here, but got way too close there. Has to check up. Is now under pressure from Shakib Reza. Let's see what Pauly can do to build the gap down to Bowen. Remember, Bowen will be committing to an undercut strategy, while Paul will commit to a slightly longer overcut strategy. Not like Undercut Astor, who's going to commit the massive extreme overcut strategy, but an overcut strategy nonetheless.
Yeah, it's an ambitious strategy there. It's not going to get bogged down by a high fuel, but it's worth a shot in this position. Pauly's still trying to close up that gap as well in the midfield. Midfield slowly spreading apart now, so I don't think there's going to be any moves happening with the first corner, so we're just spreading out now, and Powell still holding on to a nearly 3-second lead.
And right now, Shazren is holding himself steady in 8th place. Sean Pauly is holding steady in 6th place, looking to catch up to Alex Bowen in the first 2 sectors. And remember, they are currently in, from what I believe is the terrace corner and into South Top. let's see how much of a gap Paulie is closing in. Let's see how much Shazren is closing in. He's getting pretty close to Shaki Freza. Let's see what Shazren can do in the exit of Paddock, as they're currently tackling SG. Now they're in Paddock, and let's see what Sean Paulie can do, but he's only 5/10ths back.
Yes, not really close enough to have a go at the moment on this back straight. I think this back straight's not really line up to try and use that selection rotating. There's potential for a dive into the hairpin, but we haven't really seen that this round. I think the main overtaking we have seen has been on that front straight.
And currently Paulie is getting really close there to Alex Bowen, only 5/10ths separating between the 08 and the 56. We're going to be seeing about basically the differences in lap times here. And here we see Sean Paulie being slightly faster than Alex Bowen on the second sector by 2/10ths. So watch out for Sean Paulie, he could be on the charge.
Yeah, doing well here despite the Lex should be more favorable in the corners, but Bowen just sort of losing touch with the top four at the moment into the clutch. So Paulie closer this time around, just under 5/10ths the margin. Heading onto the front straight now, and this time the woman uses favourable straight line speed. In the selection, that gap is slowly closing, not close enough this time, but sets the personal best lap in the process.
Yes, as does Shaki Freza as well, and Shaki Freza trying his absolute best to catch up to Shaki Freza here. Paulie's going to try his best to catch up to Alex Bowen. Remember, Alex Bowen is back in the championship hunt, so basically these two drivers are essentially fighting for the championship here. Bowen is going to try to steal more points from Shaki Freza. Paulie is going to do the same as well. So we see cooperation between the two, as basically Alex Bowen's going to come into basically undercut strategy when Sean Paulie coming into the overcut.
Yeah, so variation strategy definitely changed there with that variation. As we saw in the first race, definitely overtake's been done in the pit lane, slow pit stop, and as we saw before, potential for races to be ended. The pit lane or pit entry for that matter, so definitely want to play for.
It's all the playful for sure there. We have Shazren Freza closing into Shaki Freza, and we have Sean Paulie really closing into Alex Bowen. Will Sean Paulie pick his braking line quite well? The answer seems to be yes. Paulie is getting into putting the pressure onto Alex Bowen to maybe make her do a mistake or two. Castro is closing into Isaiah. Isaiah is closing into Garcia. Dan Powell's had a commanding run in this race so far, leading every lap so far despite qualifying on the front row, despite not qualifying on pole.
Yeah, that favourable inside line, despite it not being on the racing line, it would have been quite a lot of marbles on the inside line, but still managed to launch off pretty well, and it's been taking command ever since.
And right now, we're really taking a look into the gaps here between Powell and Garcia. Look at the gap, it's now built up a gap of 5 seconds there between Dan Powell and Kate Garcia. Sean Paulie only 6/10ths behind Alex Bowen, and with overtakes not usually being done here in Tokachi, we're going to be looking at Dan Powell sending the fast start of the race outright, 158.679.
Yeah, I don't believe anyone else has done in the 58s yet, so Powell definitely looking to extend that gap, kind of do what Bowen did in the first race, extended that gap, have a buffer, and just managed tyres in the second stint.
And currently we're looking at some of the pit permutations here, where everyone's going to look at pit. Some of them will pit early, especially for Alex Grant. Alex Grant is going to try to make sure that undercut strategy works out in the end. Now, we did mention that the overcut strategy can definitely work here in Tokachi. Remember Sean Paulie, when he made that overcut strategy, he basically gained more position than anyone else relative to his grip slot. So watch out for the overcut strategy. That could be the winning strategy here in race 2.
Yeah, as we mentioned before, traction is a factor here, and those rear tyres would not be faring well towards the end, so if you can manage those tyres on the first stint, get the most fresh tyres possible for the second stint, there is a lot of potential there.
And we shall give Reza not actually far behind Sean Paulie, by the way. Sean Paulie is actually losing touch to Alex Bowen. Look at the Shaki Reza going just a little bit wide. Oh, Shaki Reza almost has a peek down the inside on the hairpin and into twins. Shaki Reza is doing very well there to defend 7th place.
Yeah, doing well indeed. It's just under 5/10ths the margin now between the brothers as well. So and despite not being in championship contention, he still wants to hold out against his brother.
And currently Castro trying to catch up to Orihara Izaya, both of them having basically equal age of tires. But if we're looking at the last lap pace difference here between Izaya and Castro, we'll be taking a look into the differences in their lap times as we speak right now. Dan Powell with another fastest lap in the race, 1:58.676.
So it's just getting quicker and quicker and quicker, and everyone else in the 59s at the moment is Alex Grant, first one to pit.
Let's see if the undercut strategy could work for Alex Grant. If he can spin, he has some free position. He qualifies from 10th. But yeah, we'll be seeing the stricken car of Lorenzo Ricci who have been tangled in the race start. We'll see what all the other drivers can do, especially for the championship contenders.
Yeah, still very much open in terms of championship. Shazren still sitting in the points pan position, but not really able to extend this gap. So obviously, in this current circumstance, Shazren cannot clinch the championship in this race.
Championship is currently unclinchable. Yes, correct. Sean Pauly with being only around 160, 170 points, I believe, behind Shazren as it stands. This would be very good for Pauly to be in a better position than he was if he doesn't have put up a good fight there, Sean Pauly, to be able to challenge Shazren in the final round at Suzuka. And it's not just any type of Suzuka, it's the full Grand Prix layout of Suzuka. Is going to be the longest track in the Hololive GT3 with being 5.8 kilometers. We're going to be explaining that later on in the final round. And speaking of the final round, we're also going to be looking to delay the final round's date by a week due to outside commitments that I cannot avoid. And apologies if we have that bit of a stuttering here. That's basically normal for new equipment as it stands. But as it stands right now, Sean Pauly doing very well there in 6th place, and Shazren in 8th place, also doing very decent as well.
Yeah, so field's still kind of spreading out as we enter the first pit stop phases. So Alex Grant obviously sitting last the runners at the moment after making the pit stop, and then looking at a few lows, a few uppers, because we're looking to stop in the next couple of laps.
And speaking of the few drivers here, we'll be taking a look at Dan Powell and Orihara Izaya, as does Kate Garcia and Alex Bowen. Basically, Team Lex is going to go at it. Meanwhile, Shazren Reza going to take a peek around the inside of Shakib Reza, but not quite close enough. As you can see, Shazren Reza is only 2/10 faster than his brother. So it's basically a battle of egos between the Reza brothers. Shakib Reza is edging ahead of Shazren Reza, who will edge ahead of each other come the end of this race.
Yeah, for Shazren Reza is trying to keep all that championship there for Shakib Reza. It's purely for bragging rights. Shakib Reza not in championship contention as mentioned before, so it purely just wants bragging rights against his sibling.
And as of right now, he due to the misfortune there from Ricci and Alex Grant pitting, and with him committing to the overcut strategy, Alec and Astor is back in the points. Then he wants to make sure that he basically minimizes the damage that Reza is dealing in the championship. And as for Sean Pauly, doing very decently as well, tries to catch up to Alex Bowen, but while he is starting to lose touch, crucially he is building a gap to Shakib Reza.
Yeah, Bowen just broke it away. Now we kind of did see this in the previous race. Other Nissan's corners were trying to keep touch with the Lexus early in the stint, but Lexus able to break away later in the stint, so there's potential that Lexus may be better on tyres than before.
And meanwhile, we got the call for Dan Powell, Alex Bowen, and Miguel Castro for them to pit the end of this lap. So here are the next drivers who commit to an undercut strategy relative to the rest of the field. Now, we're talking about Lorenzo Ricci. He could have also committed to the undercut strategy had he not been punted out of the race. And as of right now, we're going to be taking a look into Dan Powell, race leader, and he makes contact. He makes contact, but manages to get himself out of the guardrail. It's a bit messy there for Dan Powell, but he manages to get himself clean. That looks like Miguel Castro is doing just fine. But Alex Bowen basically spun out and basically did the same mistake as Ori. Basically, Kate Garcia back in race 1 and has problems getting out of the car.
Yeah, it looks like the suspension's temperature not finding reverse gear either, so I think there comes to be a bulk down here. We're going to have our second DNF of the race, an absolute opposite of outcome of the first race. We'll go from a win to a DNF.
0 to 0 there for Alex Bowen, but this could be a 0 to hero moment for Kate Garcia. Instead, Now we talked about reversal forces in Hololive GT3, now it's in full force.
Yeah, Power's going to lose a couple of seconds up at clock when the arm code there was still able to just keep on going, but whether they'll repair that front end damage, we'll have to wait and see. There's not much damage that we can see on there. Might be repaired in the stops and maybe had a couple of seconds extra in the stop, and obviously lost a couple of seconds from that contact, so maybe under threat from Garcia in the pit stops.
But as of right now here, the pit stop delta is 40 seconds, around 39 to 40 seconds there. The pit stop delta from you coming, I believe from you coming into the garage, for coming into the slowing down into pit lane, into exiting the pits, the basically delta will be at around 39 to 40 seconds. So if Dan Powell wants to overtake Kate Garcia, who is looking to pit later in this race, actually she's going to pit this lap here. And actually, yes, Kate Garcia will pit later. Right now, Kate Garcia doing very decently in the race lead. Let's see where she'll end up coming into the pits.
And Powell's still waiting for that time when we mentioned the low track temperatures at the moment. That gap was actually slightly extended out. It was 40 seconds before, now 41 seconds.
Oh no! Another mistake! Again a mistake! And here's the Oniari side! Oniari tries to get it at the same time as Garcia! And here's Mama Jack and there's a big fuck there between the two legs of the cars! Mama Jack and just fall through the two legs of the cars! And Jackie Reza, what a offensive drive there from Jackie Reza to basically just pile drive the two legs of the cars, forcing himself into the pits!
I don't know what to say there. Like, I don't know what they're on, but good job.
I just wanted this could be the move of the season there for Mohamed Jackie Reza, as he basically put Garcia and Isaiah out of the running. He basically just piled through the two cars out, and meanwhile we have Garcia back out on track. Good job from her to get their car serviced back. But still, that's gotta be one of the most Chad moves that we have seen in all GT3 so far.
Like, it was that last hit that basically allowed him to get back on track, because they're already bogged down, and this was like, alright, I'll just help you out. Bonk.
And bonk, the Jackie Reza did, and whatever the case is there, this could mean that Sean Pauli could be in contention for the race win. The clutch move by Sean Pauli. And yes, it could be the move that could define the championship for sure. An outside factor being the sole influence of who wins and who loses the championship.
Like, no one really attempting to like try to take a best of action. It was saw at the last one. I think it was a bit of a blind entrance there, so they wouldn't have seen that car streak, and then they're just all coming in one at a time and then just bonk again, and just one nearly flipping over. Just what the heck, man? Just
what the heck for sure. But right now, with Garcia and Isaiah back on track, they seem to be one lap down, and that will mean that they're out of contention. And with compared to the car made for Shakib Reza, he's now basically only 50 seconds behind the leader. And here's the crucial part here, with Alkan Astor going long in his strategy at the moment, managing the times as much as he can, as Shakib Reza peels into the pit, the first of the championship contenders.
Yeah, and keeping well clear of the barrier, starting compared to other drivers, so clean pit stop. It looks like doesn't want to lose anything. That time was late in the pits as well, so minding that barrier as well. So to see where he comes out, but Pauli's still in the lead at the moment.
Let's see if Sean Pauli can make sure his undercut strategy could work through his best at the moment. Alex Bowen is also pitting, but of course Alex Bowen hitting the Armco in the pits, in basically pit entry, that is not going to do him any favors as well. Here Shazren Reza still in the pits here. Miguel Castro will beat out Shazren Reza on his undercut strategy, but Shazren Reza having the fresher tires, but with the distance, better engine. So it looks like Shazren Reza will look to be behind Castro, I guess.
So I believe, looking at the time Bob held his I think that's going to be a retirement for Bowen as well. So Garcia managed to just get back out there, but for Bowen I think that's going to be definitely a DNF. And so far we have two people who will not be classified in this race.
Currently, yes, that's an unfortunate case here. Sometimes we had some unfortunate moments. We had some crazy moments here. And meanwhile, for Sean Pauli, it's going to probably be his next going to probably be him next to be into the pit. Muhammad Zohair and Alex. Muhammad Zohair is now the next driver to be called into the pit. And meanwhile, we're about to see Kate Garcia trying to challenge Muhammad Shazren. She's trying to basically get her lap back to Shazren, but of course she needs to also unlap herself from Castro, Powell, Hernandez, Bolatev, Astor, Zohair, and Paul if she wants to be back on the lead lap.
Yeah, tough faster unlap here, and so Shazren not obliged to let her through, starting to get a feeling, well, little look there, trying to unlap herself, but tough faster. Again, it's not just unlapping yourself, but you guys need to gap yourself as well as Zohair goes to the pits here again, still clean. So we need a tally board of how many people clipped the barrier and how many people actually did this stuff correctly.
And currently, as it stands, we have 3 drivers clobbering into the Armco in pit entry, and all of them seems to be Lexus cars. And the only other incident here in Tokachi that does not involve a Lexus is basically Shaki Reza plowing into Garcia and Isaiah to basically make them save the day, make sure they're still in this race. And and another one would be for basically how do we put this? Lorenzo Ricci basically making contact with some of your drivers in lap 1.
Yeah, so they went from Lexus lockout to, well, Lexus basically been nowhere, so Powell's the only one who's really in contention from that cam. So currently at this point it's a Honda lockout.
It's currently a Honda 1, 2, 3. Remember we did mention back on Twitter that we're heading into round 9, so Lexus 1, 2, 3 in the championship. And in Split A is a Honda 1, 2, 3 in the championship heading into round 9. We will be seeing a manufacturer lockout here in Tokachi at the moment. And with Reza pitting a lap earlier when with Zohair basically bunching up Grant and the lap car of Garcia. Let's see what Zohair can do to get her basically get himself to challenge Reza at the end of this race.
We do have a yellow flag showing up on screen, but I don't believe anyone has gone off, so that may just now has gone back to green flag again, so I don't know what that was about. Was Garcia, I think, has unlapped, I think now, just the timing line's doing yeah.
Yes, right now Sean Pauly is going to be the next driver to be called into the pits, as does Yosor Hernandez. Clean here for Sean Pauly. It's clean here from the British driver here. He pits from the race lead. Adak Astor now assumes the temporary basically takes over the gross race lead.
Yeah, still going for that long overcut strategy, still lapping, and the 59s are still holding decent pace despite the high fuel load and really stretching out those tires as well. So overall decent management of that at the moment. And more of all the incidents that happen is follow attention for good old points if you can hold them as well.
And right now we're looking at Shadowreza barreling into the final 2 turns. Sean Pauly still having his car service. Sean Pauly gets his car out. And Shadowreza barreling into the main straight. Who will edge ahead between the championship contender? Here's Shadowreza in the background. Sean Pauly has exited ahead of Shadowreza. Mission complete for Sean Pauly. It's now a job for him to stay ahead of Mama Shadowreza and steal as much points from him as possible.
Yeah, I think Dust has enough of a gap to negate, the tire warm-up phase. Obviously, Pauly's going to be a bit slower than Shazren with those cold tires. You can see the gap closing in, but crucially has that track position.
And right now, we're looking at some of the gaps here. Dan Powell is cleared for the finish, and for Adak Astor, and he's not cleared for the finish, as does Daniel Bolatev. And Dan Powell, though, is going to be a favorite to win this race. Basically, he has already pitted. He's basically pitted when the 3 Lexus drivers didn't get themselves into a mishap. So Dan Powell is going to be a favorite to win his 2nd race of the season.
Yeah, well, I didn't really expect that going into it, but, as they're making use of other people's misfortunes, so Powell definitely in good position here as Astor are yet to hit. As regard for Pauly at the moment, Shazren is still right behind, just under half a second. I think the tyres are nearly up to temperature now. Can get on with the 2nd stint, but still under pressure.
And right now with Sean Pauly having the warmer tires, basically his tires not being activated, and with him having the fresher tires, over Shazren Reza. Paul is going to be cleared to basically pull away from Shazren Reza. And speaking of the drivers gaining a lot, Daniel Bolatev and Adak-RMS, but they have yet to pit, so that could take that with a grain of salt. But for Miguel Castro, Sean Paul and Mama Shazren Reza, watch out for them. They could be contenders for the race win.
And of course, look at the progress what we saw before, and as Zaya Garcia is still a lap down now after their mishap into pit entry, so definitely not in contention for any points here. Powell definitely still in contention, Castro looking for second place potentially. Paulie and Tranquilly Shazren Reza still applying the pressure behind.
And currently Shazren Reza is only 6/10 away from Sean Paulie, is 6/10 away from 5th place. And as for Daniel Bolatev, well, Daniel Bolatev and Adak-RMS is going to be running their fuel stint to the extreme. And speaking of the gaps here, we're going to be taking a look into the live gaps here. And as it stands right now, Dan Powell will take this win with Castro in 2nd, Sean Paulie 3rd, Shazren Reza 4th, and it's going to be very likely that Adak-RMS and Daniel Bolatev will end up 5th and 6th.
Yeah, so just catching between, so we said about 40 seconds is the pit stop delta, so in between Shazren Reza and Air, so obviously some of that making up for misfortunes of others, and some of it trying to use the obviously a shorter second stint to try and make up the gap, so there's still more in there.
And currently Sean Paulie is going to try to get himself back in contention in the championship. Remember, we did mention that he is around 170 points behind Shazren Reza. Now currently as it stands right now, Sean Paulie may just as well steal only 10 points around, 11 points from Shazren Reza, but with the gaps as it stands right now, it won't be enough for Paulie to have a good shot at challenging Shazren for the championship, but he will definitely have a good position coming into the final 2 races here in Suzuka.
Yeah, so definitely no position here to any championship clinching at this race, but it's definitely still mathematical to play for. The final most will go down to the final round at the Suzuka. As I said, for the Grand Prix circuit, they've had to warm up on the shorter east circuit, and now it's time for the full thing.
And now currently 159.098 for Paulie, 159.384. Sean Paulie is pulling away from Shazren Reza at the moment.
Yeah, so Paulie got those slightly fresher tyres and now all up to temperature, can get knuckled down into his stint, so trying to get now is a few seconds behind Castro, so I think at this stage it may be a tough pass to catch up to Castro, so I think it was from top 3 of Powell, Castro and Paulie are pretty well set, but Shazren Reza are still a potential for a podium here.
And currently Shazren Reza is in 6th, Paulie 5th, Castro 4th. Powell is currently holding on currently very decently, and looking to be the favorites to win this race, and could be basically back in title contention as it stands. And for Shazren Reza currently in 6th place, Zuhair 7th, Shakib Reza in 9th place, really catching up to the 2 distance in front.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot to play for in this midfield here, so Shakib Reza stuck behind Brand and Zuhair. Tiger's led just a bit behind as well, so definitely a lot to play for the trailing end of the point standing. So I think Mendes is also 6 seconds behind Tiger's at the moment, so maybe not many points there. Obviously Garcia and Zaya are definitely well out of contention for pretty much anything at this point after their comical
pit entry and all that stuff. It's got to be the moment of the season for sure. Whatever the case is, Daniel Bolatev is going to be the next driver to pit. Looking at the fuel, at the moment he only has 6 liters of fuel to go. Daniel Bolatev will be the next driver to pit in this race. The second last driver to pit from 13 drivers currently out on track, and then it will be Astor. Astor keeping a very consistent lap time here. His best lap time was 59.368. His last lap time was at 59.6. So right now, Astor is being very consistent here and is basically faster than Shazren Reza, by the way. So actually no, Shazren Reza is actually faster than Astor, but whatever the case is, Astor is going to try his best to go spend as much time as possible in the race sleep before having to relinquish it in the pit stops.
Yeah, I think potentially the issue is you might want to look at pitting pretty soon, because it's all well and good leaving it very late, but if you want to utilize that, then you're going to account for the time warp as well. We did say time warp is a bit of an issue, so you may want to look at pitting in the next couple of laps or so to be able to utilize those fresh tyres to the fullest.
Daniel Balatev has been confirmed to be called into the pits, but for Alikan Azar, he may just as well have basically two more laps to basically run his fuel, run his fuel before he inevitably makes his one and only stop at the race so far. Here we have Shazren holding on to 6th place, Sean Foley in 5th. Currently very decent, both championship contenders really working their money here. And actually we're going to be taking a look into the intervals here. Dan Powell, like we mentioned, is going to be in a very serious position to win this race.
Yes, sadly I wasn't expecting that, but not really under pressure from anyone else, so he can just resume his own race, best lap 58.6, last lap was in the 59s, and still consistently in the 59s it looks like at this point, so all he has to do is just keep it on track.
And currently Dan Powell holding very steady there in 3rd place here, Miguel Castro in 4th, Sean Pauli 5th, here's Daniel Bolate peeling into the pits, that's him in the pit lane. Let's see where he'll end up from basically second on the second in the field as he is going to make his first and only stop. Let's see where Bolatev ends up. He's just gone out of the pit lane here and is looking to be ahead of Mohammad Zohair. Here's Mohammad Zohair battling Daniel Bolatev. They're not side by side, but he will be side by side with his Gen 4 teammate. No, he will be side by side with Shakib Reza. Just manages to exit ahead of Shakib Reza. And right now, Bolatev looks to exit 8th. And with that out of the way, looks like Alikan Azar may be in a dangerous position to exit behind Sean Pauli and crucially Shazren Reza.
Yeah, so Bolatev also even cold ties at the moment under threat until the points may be under threat in the points altogether. Tigers Legend was absolutely going down on him. Astor last one to pit, and I guess the monitor should be pitting probably not this lap, maybe next lap.
Yes, next lap. We're looking at Alikan Astor's fuel, basically fuel right now. He only has 7 liters of fuel. He will be pitting by the time he finishes his 17th lap, by the time we'll start lap 19. So basically he will have very short time in his second stint, and it'll just be there as filler. And as of right now, his last lap was a 59.666, and his last lap was a 59.2, while his last lap was a 59.265. So watch out for them, as looks like Paulie will score his next podium finish of the season. Miguel Castro will finish in second for the second time this season. Very good job there from Miguel Castro. Very consistent indeed. And meanwhile, Taco's Light and Shaka Reza have gone side by side. We've seen Taco's Light making the move on Shaka Reza in twins. And good job for Taco's Light. Credit to him. He's made the job done.
Yeah, well, listen, I don't think any overtakes there so far this round, so definitely making use of an unlikely overtaking position for Shaka Reza. May have just gone a bit squirrely in the traction zone now. Tyre wear now settling in as we are approaching nearly the, obviously, lap 18 of 20 in Astor, as that's still yet to pit as well, so definitely in the closing stages, tyre wear playing a factor.
And look at this, Shazren Reza is really closing the gap here. It's a Nissan Lexus strain for Shaka Reza and Taco's Light. Shaka Reza is going to try to fight back against Taco's Light. They're side by side into turn 1, breaking into turn 1. Shaka Reza into the inside, nearly pushes Taco's Light off wide. And it looks like Shaka Reza is going to make the pass done into turn 2. Will Taco's Light fight back? The answer is no. Taco's Light will not fight back. It's Shaka Reza's 9th place.
Yeah, but it's now under pressure from
not really. Remember, Isaiah is a lap down and Hernandez is actually closing in, so may want to watch out for that.
Yeah, so Hernandez just caught up behind a lapped car at the moment. Yes, he's made a mistake there, but still got to play for in the last points paid position. So yeah, lap traffic getting a bit in the way now.
Remember what happened back in Suzuka East, and it's between the same drivers, Hernandez and Isaiah. So maybe Isaiah would want to basically pay back for what happened in Suzuka East last 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, we saw how Suzuka East was really basically lap car blue flag central and also blue flags not really enforced here, so people just getting away with each other as Astor finally makes this one and only pit stop, and not really many laps left here to utilise those tires, so as you said, just basically filler and Powell will resume the lead.
And Dan Powell is in a very favorable position to take back the race lead, basically being in it to win it. He's been the best guy, he has had the best car all around in Tokachi Split A Race 2. Powell reassumes the race lead, and now with Algan Astor still peeling into the pits, Castro is still into the main straight, Sean Pauli third, and Shadowreza fourth. Algan Astor will exit just behind Shadowreza and Sean Pauli as I predicted, and it will be ahead of Muhammad Zuhair. So it will be a full manufacturer representation on the podium with Dan Powell in the basically in the race lead as we're in the penultimate lap of the race. Castro will look to finish second for the second time in Hall GT3. Sean Pauli will finish on the podium once again, and with Shadowreza just out of the podium, this could be something for the championship as we're about to get into the final round here in Suzuka.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we've had all three manufacturers represented in the podium in the same race. May have to fill in on past results, but definitely a good showing in terms of BOP, even if it really was mainly just, Lexus pinning themselves in pit entry, but, three manufacturers in the podium is good to see.
Manufacturer representation, we are talking about, I don't really remember where Toyota's factories are, but whatever the case is, Tochigi and Sakura are going to be a bit delighted to see their car manufacturers basically to see their cars on the podium, but none will be too happy. None will be happier than basically Toyota, which we see or seeing it's Lexus, basically the luxury car maker Lexus, basically dominating the shot on the race lead as Dan Powell has been shown to definitely have some insane pace as pointed out by Zeke in the comments. Now Dan Powell is going to start his final lap of the race in the lead, basically sealing off a Toyota sweep in Split A.
Yeah, a Toyota sweep in Split A, but a bit of a repair bill as well, as they were, I think, the only ones really to come out of the pit entry, still turning into early clapping the Armco and a few DNFs out of that. So 2 wins, but also a few repair bills as well.
So basically it cancels out between Lexus, basically for Toyota brand. So whatever the case is, it's a bittersweet day for Toyota here in Split A. Dan Powell with an 11-second gap there to beat Castro. A very good run there from Castro, and we'll be taking a look back into the progress chart. Shadowreza gains 5 positions, Astor gains 6 positions, Sean Pauli gains 4 positions, with the championship contenders finishing 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Championship leaders in 4th. Meanwhile, we're looking at a battle here. José Hernandez has passed Taco Sled on the final lap. Taco Sled has had his tires given up, and now José Hernandez is back in the points.
Is Isaiah just further out in front that they're able to unlap themselves?
But yeah, it looks like Isaiah has basically stayed ahead of Hernandez, and Taco Sled was just losing ground, losing pace. Meanwhile, we'll be taking a look into Dan Powell, who is into, I believe, twins for the final time here today in Hall GT3 Japan Series Split A. And as for Dan Powell, he has had a remarkable run. Nasser Matsuri has quote-unquote restarted herself back in last Friday, and Dan Powell is looking to basically get himself back in contention, probably for the championship. But will it be enough? Will he be 200 points behind Shadowreza in the final round of the season? We'll wait and see as Dan Powell crosses the final 2 turns. Dan Powell, all the Matsuri soon. Nasser Matsuri, you should stand up to see the driver representing you win here in Tokachi. Dan Powell takes the big W.
Big W indeed, and unexpected, but in the end a commanding victory over 10 seconds the margin as Castro is in 2nd place and Wally in just holding off 3rd place, holding the podium, and 3 manufacturers on the podium as Sega Forshaz and Redza in 4th place.
And Shadowreza steals points away from Astor, but couldn't steal points away from Pauli. This is going to be an interesting battle for 2nd place, but for the battle for the race lead here, everyone looks to have an outside chance of winning Suzuka and the championship. It's gonna take a massive, colossal failure for Shadowreza for anyone to basically contend for the championship in Split A at the moment. No one is stopping Shazren Reza. Shazren Reza seems to be unstoppable. The gap's still in his favor. Alec and Astor losing a lot more to Shazren Reza. Isaiah basically out of contention. Alex Grant down in 7. Alex Bowen basically out of the race entirely. So this could be Shazren Reza's championship to lose.
Yeah, like absolute big buffers that head into the final round. It's always lose, and obviously wants to make sure he has a reliable car heading into the final round.
And speaking of the reliable car and rounds and all that stuff, we'll be taking a look into basically the results here for one more time. Dan Powell wins in the number 7 National Master Lexus once again. Miguel Castro finishes 2nd once again. Sean Paul gets into the podium once again. Teresa finishes 4th again. Alican Astor, will he be in the championship contention? We'll wait and see. Alican, and then we have Zuhair in 6th. Alex Grant 7th. Daniel Bolatev 8th. Shakib Reza in 9th. And Hoyosa Hernandez gets back into the points in the later stages and race in 10th. And Otago's left falls out of points in 11th. Garcia in 12th. Orihara Isaiah 13th after having a pit stop mishap, as does Alex Bowen. And for Lorenzo Ricci, also another mishap for him. He will be down in 15th place. And we'll be taking a bit of a transition here into the race replay first. But first, Gibbo, we would like to hear your thoughts coming into the end of this race.
I just can't get out of my mind that comical pit entry, that just huge mishap basically for the 2 Lexuses and that one Nissan. Like it's like probably the highlight of the season, like even though it's not really actual racing we want to highlight, but you know, it's comical enough that it's just stuck in my mind.
And we're gonna go on board with Lorenzo Ricci on the start of this race. Here he is, the start of the race, Lorenzo Ricci, and you can see he has a pretty decent run here. You think he goes 3 wide in the turn 1. Oh, he gets tagged, tries to catch the car, slams Alex Bowen, gets slammed into another guy, gets C-point into another car. That's his race over. Now we're gonna be going into another camera to see what's going on with basically Ricci. So here is Alex Bowen on the right, and we got Castro dive bombing him into turn 1. Oh, that's definitely payback. That's a bit like payback there into turn 1, and gets collected by Sean Pauli for good measure. But whatever the case is, remember last time back in Autopolis where the previous driver, number 40, Hoshimaki Suisei Nissan, Kento Shiden basically drove the Suisei car into Dan Powell, and Dan Powell spun out and tries to catch the car back and gets T-boned by Shakib. This could be retribution, but this time it could be for another driver.
Yeah, so multiple impacts there, absolutely compromising the structural integrity of the car, so there was no getting out of that. Chassis, suspension damage, all the works just absolutely collected.
Yes, gets absolutely collected, unfortunately, for Lorenzo Ricci, and we're going to also be taking a look into some of the more comical events here in Hololive GT3 that we have mentioned here. And here we see Alex Bowen getting into the pits, watch the number 08 Lexus, turns way too early, and then watch out for Orihara Isaiah. Actually, no, that was the first incident, but for Isaiah, it would be the next lap. So here we have Isaiah getting into... actually, no.
It was Garcia that kicked it off.
Yeah, Garcia. We'll take a look into Garcia. So Garcia getting into the final turn here. Okay, Garcia on board with her. Turns way too early. Smack into the wall. And as you can see, Orihara Isaiah as well. Smack into the wall as well. Here's Shakib Reza. Here's the best part. Watch this. Watch as Shakib Reza does a pile throw between the 2 Lexus cars, and basically kind of saved them and get them back at the pits. Oh, look at Garcia though, going off wide, and oh my god, look at them going basically upside down.
Physics.
Astor physics, ladies and gentlemen, and that basically wraps up the Tokachi weekend for Split A. And as we'll be taking a look into the championship order here as it stands. And as you can see, the championship, you need to be 477 points behind the championship leader. Sorry, 200 points behind the championship leader and to the final round of Suzuka. Here we have it, boys, ladies and gents. And we'll be taking a look in the championship standings here. Shazren Reza leads. Alican Astor this time by 140 points. and Sean Pauli not far behind Orihara Izai and Alex Bowen. Basically, of the top, basically from second to fifth, they are still eligible to fight for the championship. And as it stands right now, there will be no Nissan contenders in the championship heading into the final round in Suzuka, and no one is within 100 points behind Shazren Reza. So it's basically Shazren Reza's championship to lose. Alikan Astor basically would need to steal around 123 points from Shazren. And meanwhile, Sean Pauli will need to steal around 130 to 140 points away from Shazren. Shazren will need to have a colossal failure in Suzuka for him to lose the championship. And as for Orihara Izai and Alex Bowen, they are the literal dark horses in the championship. They're still mathematically able to win this championship, especially for Alex Bowen, who's exactly 200 points ahead, basically 200 points behind Mohamed Reza. And for Alex Bowen to win, she needs to win both Suzuka races and pray. And actually, no. Actually, if you want to talk about the tiebreaker rule, which Shazren Reza winning 4 races, Alex Bowen is basically knocked out of the championship entirely. Even if Alex Bowen has won 2 races in the final round in Suzuka, even if Alex Bowen has won 2 races and another 2 in Suzuka, with Shazren Reza winning 4 races first, Shazren Reza will break the tiebreaker and will be champion in this regard. But meanwhile, we'll also be taking a look into Alec and Astor, Sean Pauli. They will be the next best chances to win the championship. And then Orihara Izaya in 4th place. And from 6 on back, they are now out of contention for the championship. Dan Powell and even Nissan's best driver, Alex Grant, is now out of the championship contention. Miguel Castro, Jose Hernandez, Lorenzo Ricci, Muhammad Zohair, and Andrew Takozai, as we mentioned, are now out of the championship entirely. Well, that is the round here in Tokachi for Split A. Gibbo would like to hear your thoughts for the 2 rounds as we're about to get ourselves ready for Split B tomorrow, basically tomorrow.
Yeah, Split B tomorrow, and well, we did see that the Lexus really once she came a crop of pit entry, and obviously more Lexus entries in Split B, so hopefully we don't see a repeat, but it makes for really fun and comical content, so we shall see. But as for the final round in Split A, definitely still mathematically in there for the championship for various drivers, but it's Shazren Reza's championship to lose.
And yeah, it's got to be Mohamed Reza's championship for sure. If he doesn't muck it up in the final round in Suzuka, that's going to make for some interesting championship stories here. And whatever the case is, we hope everyone here has enjoyed watching the Hall GT3 stream. We apologize for the slight delay in the stream start time. There was a bit of an issue on the broadcaster's end, so it's pretty much unavoidable. But whatever the case is, we hope that the content that you enjoy here basically makes up for it. When we'll be hoping to see if Tokachi for Split B makes the same event as well, makes up for the same turn of events as well. And we hope that also we would like to announce as well that we also want to announce something later on before the final round in Suzuka. So you may want to tune into that as well. And for the final and as for the basically final round in Suzuka, there will be some surprises coming about. There will be announcements coming in as well. And for the basically everything else, we'll be waiting for Split B's turn to race in Tokachi tomorrow. And for the final round in Suzuka, we're going to delay the final round to the August 20th to August 21st to accommodate for some unforeseen schedule changes. But whatever the case is, we hope you enjoyed the stream here for round 9 Split A at Tokachi for the 2022 Hall GT3 Japan Series. My name is Shazren Reza, and alongside me is Callum Gibbons in the commentary booth, and you've been watching the 2022 Hololive GT3 Japan Series.